Hello, everyone. We are going to get started in 2 minutes, just to make sure everyone's in. This will be a very fun presentation, so looking forward to this. How's everyone's day? Anyone wants to participate in a quick conversation with me?
Good. How are you today?
Oh, that's good. My day has been pretty good too. Weather is getting a lot better. I hope it's getting better on a bit there on your side as well.
Yep. Actually, it's hot now.
I know it's like spring. We just skipped spring, right? Just went from winter for one week
Where
and
are
then just
you?
summer.
Where are you located?
I'm in New York City.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, New Jersey, New York is very hot the past few days.
Yeah, I know.
Like summer.
It's crazy. We'll see if it cools down again, but hopefully it gets better, right?
Yep.
All right, let's wait for 1 more minute. I'm going to get started at 11:04. All right, let us begin. So, welcome everyone to the first talk, I believe, of the fifth Future Hacks. In the next 30 minutes, I think I'm sharing the right screen. Let me double check. All right, perfect. Let me go back. In the next 30 minutes or so, 20 minutes to 30 minutes, I'm going to be discussing my college application experience. More specifically, I'm going to be focusing on how high school was for me, what I did exactly in college, like during the college application process, as well as, how college is like. More specifically, whether or not the college experience I got was expected, unexpected, and what are some things and I wish I would have known before going in. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Daniel. I am currently a sophomore at NYU Stern, studying finance and computer science. This is me, a photo of me when I believe I was in Maine there, like a beach. I really like traveling. I go on road trips a lot. And honestly, that's, I think, another reason why I thought studying at NYU is a pretty awesome place, simply because New York City is so open. You can just do whatever here, right? Just go to restaurants, go have fun. And so let's jump straight into my story then. Now, I know most of you are here probably to learn more about the college application process, right? Two questions really. One, how do you get into a good college? And two, how is college? Now, how do you get into a good college? That is a pretty loaded question, right? Everyone has different strengths, different weaknesses. Everyone has different experiences at different favorite schools. So in today's presentation, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break down who I was per se when I did the whole college application process, as well as, whether or not, like how I felt about the whole process. Like, did I feel that did I do my best, etc. And so in terms of college application, my understanding of it really is just, you can break it down into two parts. One is your academic and the second is extracurricular. I mean, that's what the colleges are looking at the end, right? They look at your grades, your standardized test scores, maybe some really random questions like what's your favorite movies on the Common Apps, and most importantly, your personal essays. Those really tell us about who you are, right? What are some of the fun things you did? And so I'm going to be focusing on these two stories. So first, let's talk about my academics. As a student, this is something that I'm really fortunate with, that I've always been really good at studying. And I think part of that came from my background in terms of growing up in China. I was born in the US, but when I was in elementary school, I went to China for elementary school. And for those of you who've been to school in China or have parents who've been to school in China or just have gone back there, you probably would there's this you probably would know that the schools in China is, I would say, at least for me, I would say a lot more academically challenging. Like when I first came to the United States, I remember like it was the transition between fifth grade and sixth grade. It was from elementary school to a middle school, and I remember the workload just dropped down dramatically. Like right, like in China elementary schools, they make you work like do homeworks and whatnot a lot more than they do in the United States. So from that aspect, I've always been pretty good at the studying. And I've always been like a straight A student. I went to a public high school. Um, so this is just a quick overview of what my academic looks like. I have a 4.8 GPA weighted. If you don't know what the difference between a weighted and unweighted GPA is, weighted means it takes into consideration of what type of class you are taking. So for example, if you are taking honors classes, AP classes, those would have a higher weighted, those will give you a higher weighted GPA than if you were just taking regular classes. Unweighted GPA, on the other hand, is just basically looking at whether or not you're getting A's, getting B's. So if you have straight A's across, you would have a 4.0 GPA. But if you're just taking regular classes and not any honors or AP classes, your weighted GPA wouldn't be as high, simply because you're not taking those more challenging classes. So for me, because I've always been really good at studying, I would always be challenging myself and taking one of those more difficult classes whenever I got the chance, right? So whenever there's an honor class, I would go for it, or if it's an AP class. And from a college admission point of view, it's definitely better, at least for me, I feel like it's definitely better to take more challenging classes. And the reason is because when you look at the transcript, it's like, hey, look at all these AP classes. That's impressive, right? So there's that. But I do want to point out here that it's not necessarily that you have to take AP classes, right? Like this is something I want to add here, that if you don't think you can handle the curriculum of a really challenging class, getting an 8 from a college admission point of view is definitely more important. So they're really different paths. For me, at least, I took the hard classes and I thought they were not bad. Or just pay attention in class, do your homework, don't skip classes, and I think you'll be fine. And then the next big part in terms of academic, I would believe, is AP classes. AP classes, as you know, advanced placement classes, those are going to be more difficult than your average classes. And really, I think, big question is, what kind of AP classes should you be taking, right? Now, there are two ways of looking at it. Obviously, there are the harder AP classes, and from an admission point of view, you want to be taking the harder classes, right? Like Calculus BC, that's a big math class. AP Lang, that's a big English class. AP Lit, AP Biology, Physics, maybe not all the science classes, but maybe one of the science classes, right? Maybe a world language class. These are all the challenging AP classes, but wouldn't make you stand out more academically. From the perspective of going into college, however, one thing you can consider is what kind of classes, this is a question you want to ask, right? What kind of classes do I want to take that can prepare me for college, or that can allow me to skip some college credits? After all, as you may know, college is expensive. And then if you want to graduate early, or you don't want to take the elementary classes and want to focus on studying more interesting classes, it's definitely a benefit to be able to take these AP classes and skip the more introductory classes. And what are these? You can find these online, but this is something actually I didn't know when I was going to college. Like, what kind of classes can I waive out of? Like, what is, what AP classes should I be taking? And the big ones I really recommend is take Calculus BC. That allows you to just skip 2 math classes straight. Right? Calculus 1 and 2. It's good to get that out of the way. If you're going into a CS major, taking these math classes, CS classes definitely helps. If you're doing a business major, like I am, statistic classes, that also helps you, get ahead of the curve, and also maybe allow you to skip a few classes. However, some schools don't let you skip, and more and more on that actually. If you're going to be pursuing a major that's not, if you're going to be pursuing a major that really emphasis on these core curriculums, they may not let you skip these classes as well. As an example, for at Stern, um, I took AP Lang and AP Lit, right? But they don't let you transfer these credits in simply because they want you to be taking English classes to learn how to write. Other thing for my AP Stat, like after you take it, this is funny actually. After you have the exam, you have to take a placement exam after proving that you've done AP Stat. And then once you've passed that placement exam, then you can skip half of a stat class. So different schools have different policies. If you already know what school you're going to be going to, you can look into that. But if you don't know, just generally speaking, I recommend math classes, one science class to skip your science requirements. AP Lang, it's hard class, but you can learn a lot from that, like just help you make a better writer, etc. And the last thing in terms of academic is your standardized exam. My standardized exam story is, so my standardized exam story is, the main takeaway I got from that is you just want to be practice. You just want to practice, practice, and practice. I didn't start studying for SAT and ACT until 10th grade summer. I know a lot of my friends back then already were looking into practicing exams. Like some of them just took a test for fun just to see how they would do in 9th grade or even in middle school. And it's crazy, right? Some of them can do really well just in middle school, but that's like a few individuals. For most of us, this is going to take time and you just have to keep practicing. So what I did was in 10th grade summer, I really just allocated 1 month, I believe 1.5 months, just grinding out the test. There's two aspects. One, figuring out how you can do the questions. Because this is not like, at least I found out quite painfully that these standardized exams, they aren't like your typical test questions, right? There is a strategy you can use that can help you to tackle these problems. As a quick example, something one of my peers told me about that I found really, really helpful is for when you're reading a large passage, for each paragraph, just read the first sentence. And then you can then focus on the first sentence of each paragraph. And then you can skim the passages very quickly. Right? And these are techniques that you really don't know about until someone tells you, or you can look online. So there's that. But after you figure that out, it's just grinding it out. Like what I did back then, this was very painful. Like I would just go online, download a copy of a past exam. Like SAT exams goes all the way back into like the 1900s. There's tons of them. Just do one exam at a time and just go through with it. And then you'll see yourself getting better and better and better as you go do more of it. And luckily enough, on the day that I was taking the ACT exam, I was able to get a 36 straight away. That's a full score. And so I just got the standardized test out of the way by doing that. But as you can see, for me, academic wasn't, well, I was pretty strong in that aspect, right? I had perfect ACT score, pretty high GPA, lots of APs. And another thing I did academic-wise was, what are some other things I learned during high school? And this is something I thought I was worth mentioning. Currently, I'm pursuing a CS major. And the reason I was pursuing CS major is because I really think computer science is interesting. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and right now with ChatGPT and whatnot, it's just a very interesting field. And this really started when I was in middle school. In 8th grade was a CS class on Scratch. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a block-based programming language that allows kids to get into programming without having to learn how to type like very complex code. And you get a really good idea of what are the basic building blocks of a code, like if statements, while loops, etc. So I got interest in CS from there because I thought being able to look at a problem and then solve a problem is super interesting to me. And then it just went on from there. I studied CS on my own. Like I took online classes. I took the AP CS class in school, as well as we had an advanced CS class. If you didn't know, that was actually based on top of the AP Computer Science B that they used to have, that they removed, but our school still kept that curriculum. But that's something different. And I took that, and I thought CS is great. This is why I'm still pursuing a CS major. And what I want to emphasize here, at least from the experience of a CS student, if you're interested in pursuing a CS degree, highly recommend learn programming when you're in high school. Take a CS class, take AP Computer Science, at least, I think, or learn Python outside of school. The reason is, I've met a lot of students, I mean, a lot of classmates here that didn't really know they wanted to do CS. And then they came into college and was like, hey, CS degree, that sounds like a really good job. That sounds like a really good path for me to get a good job. And let's try doing that, right? But learning CS in college can be much more painful than what you're doing in high school. First of all, in high school, you have more time, I would say. And then you can spend more time outside of class to learn how to do programming. And second, the classes in college, this is something I'll get to when I talk about my college experiences, but they're more lecture-based, right? It's going to teach you about concepts, lectures, concepts. For instance, how does if statement work? How does this work? How does that work? And then you're going to be building pretty big labs. And then these labs are going to be a really big part of your grade. So if you mess these up, you're going to feel really stressed because your GPA is going to go down. In high school, there's not that the pressure is in there. And when you're in school, when you're teaching it, the teachers are going to guide you through it. You're going to be doing practice problems over and over and over again. I had a really good professor when I was in high school. He was really funny and I loved his class. And one thing I got out of that was just, it was just really nice learning at school simply because in class, you're just practicing code, right? Your teacher's teaching a concept, but then they also give you time to do it on your own. And then you can also take it back home and study on your own. Now, if you're not doing CS, I guess it doesn't really apply to you. But I know a lot of students nowadays is really, like a lot of people are interested in CS. And if that's something you're considering doing, and then you're still in high school, even middle school, just pick up like a simple language like Python, Java, even Scratch, go online, take some class. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna definitely go over time. So let's talk about extracurricular. That's academics. Let's talk about my extracurricular. Contrary to my academic, I was a lot, when I was entering high school, I was a lot weaker extracurricular-wise than I was academic. But at the time, I didn't really know what my interest is. Like, like I said, I know I'd like CS. I worked on a few couple of fun projects, but is that really what I was gonna do? Right? When I go into college, am I going to just become a software engineer? I mean, I wasn't thinking that far ahead of time back then, but I didn't really know if I was gonna be doing CS or maybe something else. And I want to do something more. And then when I was by 10th grade, the idea that, oh my God, next year I'm going to be doing college applications. So what am I going to write about? Right? The pressure also kicked in. So my entire college application, my personal essay, the story really revolved around the framework of AiGoLearning. I hope you know AiGoLearning is. That's the organization that's hosting this entire future hack. So if you don't know what that is, or if you know what that is, today you're going to learn about its origin story. Yay. And my entire personal essay just revolved around my story with teaching classes, with AiGoLearning, and I'll get into that in just a bit. But really, as you can see, there's the timeline right here. Right? I started with just first doing something that I thought was interesting. I was doing CS, and now I'm being a teaching assistant. I started teaching assistant, helping out a class, and then I taught my own classes. I taught my own class, and then COVID hit, so everything turned online, which then led to the first training session I hosted that got other teachers to teach classes, and then which then turned into AiGoLearning, this nonprofit where we have so many incredible people at this organization working on different projects and getting more and more incredible teachers to teach more students. How did this start? I was at a local Chinese school. I was for a Sunday school, right? A lot of Chinese students like me just go there to keep up with our Chinese to not forget them. And then at that Chinese school, there was a new class that was opening up. It was called Scratch AI. The class was very interesting, I think. Actually, AiGoLearning still has this class, so if you're interested or if your kid's interested, sign up. I really recommend it. It introduces AI on a very high level, such that it allows you to understand what AI really is. And that's really important today. Like if you think of ChatGPT, like some people think it's like Terminator's coming. That's crazy. Right? You want to know what these large language models really are doing in the back, so you don't get a misconception about them, and etc. But that's okay. I'm going a bit off rail here, but This class introduces AI on a very high level, and puts them into really fun projects for students to learn so that while they're practicing their coding abilities, like coding a game like Flappy Bird here, also introducing elements of AI. This project right here is one of my favorite. You are basically creating a project that trains the computer to play Flappy Bird on its own. And it's doing so by learning how you play. You would play the game first, and then the Scratch would collect that data, and then the computer would train a model and then play the game on its own. Right? I thought it was incredible. So I then started TAing for this class. It was awesome. The teacher was really good. He also taught me a lot of machine learning concepts I never really knew, and that really got me into more. From one end, that got me more interested into AI. Like I started learning about machine learning on my own. I coded a really simple program that just played similar to Flappy Bird. I played the Chrome Dino game on its own. Like I would play it and the computer remember it, and then it would train a model to play it on its own. I learned about how it really is, delved deeper into it. But most importantly, after I TA'd was in that class for a semester, was another student actually. The next semester, what ended up happening was the teacher who was teaching that class couldn't teach the class anymore for the following semester. So then he approached me, and then I ended up taking over the class for him simply because I was a teaching assistant. I already knew the materials. Now, before that, I never really taught a class, right? And the idea of me being able to teach a class was pretty nerve-wracking. I remember my first day of class, I went in, and then I thought to myself, hey, what am I doing here? Why am I teaching a class? Right? And then I remember I was mumbling a lot. No, not at the really beginning, I was mumbling a bit. But then I remembered that I prepared for this, right? I made the training materials, the teaching materials, the presentations. I basically know the projects like the back of my hand. And then so I started teaching, and the first day of class was an incredible experience. I actually remember that after teaching that first day of class, some parents came up to me and started talking to me about it. They pointed out something that I could have done better, but also really encouraged me to keep going. And I thought that was very awesome. So I just kept teaching. I think that if you have the chance, you really should teach a class, because one, it makes you better at a lot of things, and also it makes you a lot better at the concept you are teaching, right? And so as a result, I kept teaching this class, and as you probably have guessed, a lot of my college essays really revolved around the story of me teaching, and then my personal development through my experience here, and then later on with online classes, how I dealt with that, and later on with the training program. So I taught for a semester, but what ended up happening was COVID came, right? This was 2019, 2020. So all of the classes turned online. Naturally speaking, all of the Chinese school classes went online, and I started teaching classes online. And then what I realized at that moment was that teaching classes online, while not as fun as in person, had some really good advantages. As an example, a lot easier. You can teach classes. I was in New Jersey, and I could teach classes for students that's all the way in California, and we can still do it. Second, coding was a lot easier. Like I could just share screen, and they could look at the screen, and then see what I'm doing exactly, instead of having to look at a board. And then sometimes, if you can zoom in, of course, but sometimes that may get messy, right? And another thing is I can see the student screen. Students can share screen at the same time. There are a lot of advantages to teaching in online coding classes. And that gave me the idea of, hey, if I can teach a coding class on my own as a high school student, why not get some other high school students to teach classes? There are tons of students out there in high school and even in colleges who's really good at coding, and probably would like to teach a class, but didn't really have this opportunity, unlike I did. So that's where I started. I pitched this idea to a training school and then some other marketing activities. And what ended up happening was in the summer of 2020, I hosted the first AiGoLearning. And it wasn't called AiGoLearning back then. It was just a training session where we got a bunch, like 50 something. There was 50 some students, high school students who joined the training session. And then to prepare for it, what I did was, I compiled a lot of different curriculums. We had like a Scratch curriculum, AI curriculum, like a Python curriculum. Yeah. Me and a student, I believe, we compiled all these different curriculums, created training materials, planned out what the schedule would look like, the training schedule would look like. And then also after that, plan out how the evaluation will look like, because we want to ensure the class quality. We want to know how the teacher is going to do to ensure that students are getting the best experiences as well. So, and then I thought that was amazing, right? In that summer, we ended up hosting 4 separate training sessions. That was crazy to me. I thought we were just going to do one, and then it was going to be the end of that, and teachers are going to teach. But no, people just kept coming in, and then we just kept doing it. And then from that point on, it just expanded on its own. Now we have, I think, over a few hundred student teachers who have gone through our program, our training program. We have so many teachers teaching students. We are doing also other things now. Like this was a hackathon screenshot I took a few years back, 2021. We're in our 5th annual hackathon now. I really hope it's 5th. If I got that wrong, that would be really awkward. And then things just kept going. We had new curriculums. I think now AiGoLearning even has like a Minecraft curriculum, if I remember correctly. There's also other things like there's the marketing channel, STEM for All program, and lots of other activities that AiGoLearning has just been expanding off to. Once I got a lot of high students together from this really simple idea of just, hey, I can teach classes. Other students can teach classes. Why not get other students to teach classes? Right, and that's really is my entire college application, my extracurricular framework. Now, 2 things I want to just emphasize here, and this is more, I'm going to gear this more towards how you want to write your essays. For me, there's 2 things I focus on. Like for me, like what I really got out of this whole experience was a personal development. Like I definitely think I became much better at, for instance, public speaking, communication, organization, management, a lot of soft skills that were developed throughout this process. Most importantly, though, I think through this process, I was able to find something that I enjoyed doing. Like in 9th grade, like I said, 10th grade, I don't know what I was doing. I was doing CS projects, and then at the end, I ended up doing this, right? So what ended up happening was, I took something small. This is a really small step, starting with TA, and then becoming a teacher, and then it just went on from there. Another thing that I want to mention here is, another thing that really helped was being able to see the result of what was happening. And that was something that also kept me going. Like after I taught a few classes, I really thought teaching is a really enjoyable experience, and mostly because you can see your students getting better. And then when you can see your student, like for instance, at the beginning, you may not expect them to be able to, code this on their own, right? And they wouldn't be able to, because it's a new project, it's hard. But then at the end of the semester, you're introducing a new product, it's pretty difficult. And then you are going to go through the process of, hey, let me first go over the code. I'm going to first teach them how to do it, and then let them try to recreate it. But if they just got it on their own instantly, like it's very satisfying to see that, right? And then when you see the results of your progress, that also is a very, very strong incentive to just push you to doing more. Like AiGoLearning, like we got more teachers, and it's just, hey, we got more teachers, let's do more training sessions. So there's that. And that sums of my, now you basically have a quick glimpse into, quick understanding, sorry. That's basically a overview of my profiles in high school when I was applying for colleges. I'm an academic side and I'm extracurricular side. And how was the college application process for me? Okay, it's 11:30. I am going to go over time. I apologize if anyone is going to be was planning on doing something else. College application, the college application process, one thing at first I want to mention before I go into any details is it's a long process. It's not easy. It definitely is not easy. So make sure it is important. Like spend some time with it, allocate time for it. Think about your story, think about which college you want to go into, etc. For me, these are some things I did. First step was choosing which college you want to go to. When I was applying for colleges, it was during COVID, right? So everything went online. There was no college touring, which sucked. If you can't go college touring, like if you can go on a campus and see what it's like on college, on campus, highly recommend it. You get to see what you're going to be going into. I came into NYU not expecting what it was, and then when I got in, my family was like, "Hey, let's go take a look at what NYU is like." And then I came in front of Stern, and then I saw one building, and then I realized, oh my God, that's it. NYU doesn't have a campus, if you didn't know. NYU is basically a university that's just spread all throughout New York City. We practically own Washington Square, but there's like buildings all the way uptowns and in like Brooklyn. Um, and so I didn't know that when I was okay. I did know that, right? The website did say that NYU is basically New York City. You get the New York City experience. But the first time you go into college and then you realize, oh wait, this is very different from what I expected. Um, so if you can go college touring or learn more about the college you're going into or you want to go into, highly recommend doing it. Outside of that, something you want to do, this is something your counselors may have probably talked to you about. You want to set your safety, match, and reach schools. This is very important. Don't just bank your hope on one school, right? The application pool is really competitive nowadays. So many people are applying all the time because all online. Safety schools are the ones that you know you can get in based on your academic profile and your extracurricular profile. Match schools are the one you're like I would say you're 80% confident you're gonna get in. Like it's basically maybe even lower than like 60%. Like it's at your level, right? Match school per se. And reach school are the ones that it would be great you can get in. You're reaching for it. You don't know if you're going to get in or not, but you're trying. For most of us, that will be the Ivy League schools, right? Because the people applying for Ivy League all have straight A's, all have very, very good academic. And then in order to impress the college admission pool, you really need to have some really strong extracurricular activities, like maybe honor the competitions or something really big you did, etc. This is very important, by the way. Like, spread out your pool, which leads into my next point. You want to be open to the schools you go into. Explore different programs, different majors. Just because you're doing CS right now, this is my case. Just because you're doing CS in your high school doesn't mean you have to do CS in the future. You may not actually end up enjoying doing CS, and then at that point, it's right. Explore different programs, explore different schools. Different schools have different benefits. Um, for me, NYU, like I said, was not expected. I may apply. I thought it was great. I really like the school, but at the time I applied to the school, right? But I was expecting to get like another more typical college experience, right? Be open. Your experience may differ, and you want to start early. Everything takes time. Researching for your colleges takes time. Writing out the essay takes time. That takes so much time. Oh my God, that takes so much time. Practicing for your test takes time. Um, for that, highly recommend getting it out of the way during your sophomore summer. Like take the test in like your sophomore summer, August, or your beginning of junior year, so you don't have to worry about this while you're writing your essays. If you have to write your essays while doing the test, that's a terrible idea. It's yeah. All right, do your test. Try to get your test done sophomore year, junior year, so that you can focus on writing the essays before going to senior year. The entire process takes a lot of time. So let's talk about writing the essay. Before I start, I just want to say that after I finished writing the essays, I remember being so burnt out from writing that I didn't want to write anything for like a whole like couple of months. Um, this is a painful process, but at the same time, I think it could be also a very enjoyable process. And the reason it can be enjoyable is because you're talking about yourself. If you're right, if it obviously if you write a lot, you're gonna get burnt out. But if you're talking about yourself and you're talking about something that's passionate about you, which is what you should be doing, you want to talk about your story, something you feel passionate about. Writing the essay should be really easy. You have right. It's really the difficult part is once you have that story, once you have that framework, how do you put it into words in a way that college admissions may enjoy reading? So you really want to just tell a story. And another really big point I want to emphasize here, this is something my advisors back then in high school also repeatedly pointed out to you. And then if you go on any college website and then they give you tips on how to write your essays, they'll say this like, show not tell. You want to show what you did, not just say it. For instance, let's say you want to prove to the college that you are a very good, you have this skill of problem solving. You're very good at problem solving. What's better? Saying that, hey, I am good at problem solving, Or instead, showing an entire story of how you applied your problem solving skills into some kind of situation and how you resolve the situation through your creativity. Obviously the latter, right? Um, so that's very important. You want to, the essay should be able to show that, oh my God, this person really likes what they're talking about. Okay. And then so that's what you want to write about. And then in terms of the more technical stuff, I'll be organized. What I did, I think this is a really good strategy. This is something my dad suggested that I recommend. Um, First, put all your like copy down all of the different colleges, like all the colleges you're applying to, put it on a list, and then copy all of the questions, the essay questions, onto one document so that it's all in this centralized location where you can find it easily. Keep like a table of content in the beginning where you can click into different colleges and then see what question they have on that one document. This makes it much more organized. You can see what essays you have written out so far, what you need to write, and you don't have to navigate through the Common App portal and then maybe go into a third-party website, and that just takes so much time. Keep it organized, keep it simple, and this way, another benefit of this is, which is this next point here, keep a few central essays. A lot of the college essays are really repetitive. Like maybe it's Common App essays, for example, it's the same, and there may be some question supplemental essays that have a slight twist to it, like it may be a small change, but the general idea is going to be the same story, and you get the same story. Right? Don't recommend don't copy and paste. Don't use a general essay for everything, but you can have like a brief template, right? And then just apply that to different essays, and then slightly tweak it so that it's specific to individual questions or individual colleges. So, for instance, let's say you wrote a essay for UPenn, and then you talked about, oh, this UPenn program is really good, and I want to get into this UPenn program because blah 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 blah. And then you told the story about, let's say you were, in my case, teaching a student, and you somehow connected that to the prompt. And now you're applying to, you want to apply to, let's say NYU Stern. Actually, NYU, oh yeah. And then it's a similar prompt. You can use the same story, but now it's NYU Stern. So what do? Instead of talking about the UPenn program, obviously, you want to talk about the NYU programs. So by being organized, it makes this idea of, hey, let's take a look at what I wrote already, so I don't have to spend so much time creating a brand new paragraph just to talk about the same thing. Some other things, some of the resources, internet, look at sample essays. Essays out there is really amazing. It gives you a pretty good idea of what does showing and not telling, what does that mean? ChatGPT, I think there's going to be a talk about how you can use ChatGPT there is going to be a talk about how you can use ChatGPT in your college application process. That's going to be happening later today. Go attend that. But I just want to point out here that if you're not using ChatGPT, you should. Okay, like don't copy everything from ChatGPT. Obviously, do not copy. But it's such a powerful tool that can help you save so much time while creating pretty quality content. As long as you have very good prompts and you're very specific about what you're asking, like you're not just entering, write me a personal essay, but you're entering specific details. It's a very powerful tool that can save you a lot of time. Now, I don't know if college board has some regulations about ChatGPT. I don't think they would. So take that into consideration, obviously, but very powerful tool. Lastly, ask your parents, your friends, your peers to look over your essay for you. You want to write an essay that you're proud of. If you end up writing something that you're ashamed of showing your parents or your friends, that tells you something, right? Like maybe that's not the best essay if you're ashamed of it. Okay, like you want to write an essay that you're proud of, and then you are going to submit to the college and tell them, hey, that's me, and I want you to accept me because of that, right? And then finally, after the whole process, I focus on, for me, the timeline was I focused on a lot of writing during winter break and before winter break. Like I got into NYU Stern through regular decision. So if you were able to get into a school in early decision or early admission, that's awesome, right? You're done with college. Okay, you don't have to do any of this grinding out part. But for me, I did all this. I mean, I had to go through the writing process during winter break, so that's also part of why I was really burnt out, since I just had to write so much. So start early. Okay, that's my best advice. Just start early. So I ended up in NYU Stern. It's not what I was expected because I was applying to a lot of CS schools, and then I also applied to some business schools. But I ended up going to NYU Stern because first they have a very good finance degree, a finance program, which actually was not something I was considering doing at the time. But I thought, hey, let's go take a look. Right? And also, they offered me a scholarship, which I wasn't gonna turn that down. And it was really nice to come here because I get to explore New York City. So much restaurants here. Um, in fact, this is pretty funny. Before I came to New York City, I always thought this place was pretty scary. Like I came here a few times before, and then you would look in any direction, right? And then you would just see buildings. There's buildings, 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 and they're all really tall. The only way you can see sky is either glimpse very carefully into like the distance through this narrow path, or look upwards. It's just buildings everywhere, and I thought that was scary too. It was really cramped. But then I lived here, and then it got a lot better. Like, there's so much stuff to do here. And I put there's no expectations. Be open, lots of choices. You'll get into what you want to get into. Okay, let's see. All right, here's what I'm going to do, I think. I don't know when the next talk is, but I'm just going to keep going through the presentation, and I guess, and then after this, I'm going to do a quick Q&A session if anyone has any questions, and then I'll wrap it up at latest 12 if there are questions. All right. So let's talk about my college experience. A few things I want to mention when you enter college. The three most important things that you want to do. One, go talk to people. Talk to as many people as you can, simply because in your first semester, even second semester, and even sophomore first semester, people want to meet people. Everyone's new there. No one knows each other. We all want to make friends. And go talk to people. If you're one of those, if you're more, what's the word called? Like an introvert, which I'm not gonna lie, yeah, like me. If you're an introvert, still, just keep in mind that everyone at that point wants to make friends. Just talk to people, and it gets harder and harder over time. So taking your opportunity in freshman year to make a couple of very good friends is a very good idea. Second, go to your events. Like I know a couple of people who skipped the in freshmen who skipped the school hosted events for freshmen simply because they thought, oh, it's school hosted. That's boring. Why would I do that? I recommend going. They can be very fun. Like, okay, Stern is a bit different. Honestly, they're a bit extra with their programs. In freshman year, we got to go to the US Open. That's a freshman program. We got to go to US Open for one day. And for sophomore year, they literally like had a cruise experience for like 5 hours straight on the East River. I also thought it was pretty random actually. A cruise. All right, I guess we're making connections because business school, but it was also very fun. So don't skip out on these. All right, go have some fun with it. And so entering college, yeah, make friends. Another thing I want to point out, what's the difference between school and college and what's the other thing? School and high school. Your schedule looks very different. And as a result, you have a lot more free time, so much more free time on your hands. Let's take a quick comparison. This is a high school schedule. And I don't even know why this is blocked out. I took this picture from the internet. Like this would also have stuff here, right? It would just be blocks after blocks after blocks every day. And look at your college class. Okay, this one actually is a bit extreme. Like they have a class from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. That's 2 hour, 2.5 hour. All of my classes are 1 hour, 15 minutes. And then you get like, there's 4 classes. You can think about it. Okay, 4 classes. Each class has 2 classes per week. Each session is 1 hour, 15 minutes. Class-wise, there's a lot less time you're spending in class compared to high school. And as a result, you have a lot more free time to plan out what you want to do. But there's a con to that. That means you have to time manage very well. You have to, don't forget to study, right? Tests are still important, very important. And in fact, I would argue that you will need to spend some more time on your own studying in college, a lot more than in high school, simply because the college lectures are structured in such a way that they teach you concepts. But oftentimes it's hard to comprehend what they're saying at the moment because they're talking so fast and there's so much stuff. And then you have to go and take it in on your own after class, or maybe like most students, right before an exam. So you have to time manage, right? You get a lot more free time. On the flip side of that, this is I think a lot of you already know that actually, what I just said, right? There's free time, you have your time managed. But the flip side of that is you have to understand your priorities. Not saying that I want you to try, like do your homework, but sometimes there's some homework that's less important than some other activities you may be doing. Like you may be going to an important club event, or you may be really busy doing a lot of other things. And then there's one homework assignment that's only due, it's like a completion grade. And I would prefer you spend time doing something that's very important than spending like 3 hours figuring out this one homework. There's always time later to review the materials for a test. Tests are important, but just understand your priority. Okay. Yeah. Balance it out. My point here really is just in college, you have free time. You have your own choices. Make good choices. The other thing that I'm sure you've grown tired of hearing by this point if you're doing the college application process, go to office hours. These are very helpful. You get to ask questions. Professors also, I find very funnily, professors teach better during office hours. Okay, so go to office hours. And lastly, um, I know it's expensive, but I really recommend investing in an iPad and then downloading Notability or some kind of note-taking app. In college, you're gonna have to be taking lots of notes. And then Notability is a very good tool because one, you can download your presentation and put it onto your iPad, and you can annotate straight on the presentation. Because professors will usually post their presentations off a lecture before class, right? But then they wouldn't, not everything they say would be on the slides. So that means you have to take notes. And being able to just put your notes right next to a slide is very helpful and very organized. Invest in an iPad and Notability, something I would say. That's something I didn't know when I was going in, which is why I wanted to mention it here. And lastly, I think this is lastly, few things I want you to notice. First off, explore opportunities. Clubs, go to clubs. Please go to clubs. Clubs are so fun. Yeah, any club. If you're going to business school, don't just go to business clubs. Go to some fun clubs outside of your business school. Like, you meet a lot of awesome people there, and there's some really, really amazing clubs out there. NYU has a Quidditch team. I don't know if you knew that, but this is a Quidditch team. I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but I just know NYU has a really, really good Quidditch team. Okay. Another thing, when you go into college, also explore the city you're at or the town you're in. I got lucky with New York City. There's so much to explore. I know there's some colleges with like a college town, and it gets really boring really quickly because you basically know the place inside and out after like a couple of months. But in any case, still though, go explore your city. Go explore your college town. You may end up finding some really awesome good restaurants. For me, how I explore cities is I have a list of all the restaurants I've been to in New York City because I like to keep track of these things. And then every time someone mentioned a restaurant that I never heard of, I'll add it to that list. And then I would, whenever I have the time, I would just, hey, let's go to that restaurant I have on my list that I've never been to. And then I would then write a comment under that after I go to the restaurant saying, this is how expensive it was, and then how I felt about it. Was it good? Was it bad? And then some extra notes. That's right. Exploring city doesn't have to be. You don't have to be mindlessly walking through buildings. You can have an objective. This is just some ideas I have. And finally, your schools are going to have lots of events, career fairs, resources, career centers. Take advantage of those, especially in college. Like I said, you have to make your own choices. So you have to make your own decisions. And then whenever you think you need to do something, you have to do it, right? Like you're in charge. Someone's not going to tell you that you have to do this and then you go do it. All right. So look into school opportunities, school fairs, school events. And then whenever you see something you find interesting, maybe even a little bit, and then you have the time. And then instead of, just sitting at home and doing nothing, maybe go take a listen to maybe like a really interesting speech or a career fair that's going on. Just some pointers. And that will wrap up my 50-minute, oh my God, 50-minute talk on college applications and my story. Good luck with yours or your kids. I know that no matter what, just know, I want a last pointer, it's just no matter what happens, it's gonna turn out great, all right? You may not end up getting into a school you wanted to get into, but that's perfectly fine. But first of all, like just besides all the cliche, this not cliche actually. I really think that when you get into school, lots of new things you can learn. Every school has their own benefits. Every school has a very good experience, most likely, and good resources. But even if you just don't like that school and you want to switch out, I know lots of students who transfer, right? And they transfer into some really good schools after you get into a school you may not like as much. So there's always new opportunities. So don't be too stressed. Be stressed. Stress is good, but don't be too stressed. And good luck with the applications. I know everything is going to turn out amazing. All right. Okay, someone asked where you can find a recording of this video. I'm not sure. I think this is recorded. No, this is recorded. It should be on the Future Hacks website. Like, if you're, I'm not too sure, but there will most likely be an announcement made about where you can find the video, or you can just go on the website. Like, I'm pretty sure if you go on the website, futurehacks.net, and then go scroll onto workshop, the video would be linked there, I would say. All right, someone asked, is the NYU scholarship merit-based or need-based? I think it's both. So they ask, let me think about this question. That's a good question. So for most schools, at least for NYU, to apply for a scholarship, you have to fill out your FAFSA and the other one I think called CSSA, I think. That's basically details your family income information and whatnot. So because they ask you to enter that, need is definitely a part of their process in terms of selecting who gets a scholarship. But merit definitely too. I mean, they ask you to keep a good standing. Like if you don't do that well in school, they will take away your scholarship. Or if you don't take enough classes, they also take your scholarship. So I would say it's a combination of both, but I am not too sure in terms of what is a specific. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to just unmute and talk. If not, you put in the chat as well. Private message, put it in a public message. Anything works. I will stay here for like a couple of minutes, like 6 more minutes. So if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. And ask about anything. Like, actually, one thing I want to point out here, I forgot to mention. I really want to emphasize this. When you go into college, freshman year, look into your study abroad program. I think studying abroad is an amazing experience. I'm going to be going to London next semester. I'm so excited. But look into your abroad program. And the reason you should start early into looking into going abroad is because the best time to go abroad, I would say, is your sophomore year. Junior year, a lot of students are already career hunting, like looking for jobs. And sophomore year is a time, freshman year, you're meeting students, you're meeting friends. Junior year, you're going to be a lot more busy. Sophomore year is the best time to go outside, go abroad. And the reason you want to start looking early then is, first of all, you have to consider what classes you want to be taking abroad. Like you don't want to be taking important classes when you're abroad, right? You want to have fun when you're abroad. So starting early allows you to plan your course as well. That's something obviously you want to consider after you get into a college, but something I really recommend. Look into your abroad program early so that you can plan out your classes. All right, anything else?
Hi, Daniel. I'm Isaac. I have a quick question. So I've been hearing a lot about like the personal essay and then the Common App essay. Is there a difference between those two?
That's a good question. It's a great question. So Common App essay, I really hope they didn't change the format. I don't think they would. The Common App essay is the essays you would, there's like 7 prompts. It's, let me think how I can best describe it. So when a college is considering your application, they look at your essays, right? And then different colleges have different supplementary essays. So they may be different colleges may be asking different questions, right? But most colleges also enroll in this, I would call it a program, this Common Apps, where this is, I would say, your most important essay. It's on a portal called Common Apps, and then you answer one question, and with like a 500 to 700 word essay, and then that's something that's going to be submitted to every single college, at least every college that's enrolled in this Common Apps program. And I'd say like almost everyone does, except for some schools like MIT. I know they don't, but almost every school looks at your Common App essay. So you pick one question out of 7 different prompts, I think 7, and you write one really important essay. And then outside of that, different colleges may be asking more things about you outside of your Common App essay. So that would be your supplementary essays. And those will be, I would say, your personal essays. So each colleges will have different questions, and then you can,
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
right, no problem. All right, let me check something real quickly. And if there's any more questions, just keep them coming. Okay, yeah. So actually, since the next the speaker is coming, the next workshop is coming. I'm going to end it here in just a couple of minutes. Let me just answer this quick question. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat actually. If if everyone, I'll put my contact information in the chat. This is my email. This is my Discord ID. If anyone you have any questions about college application, about AiGoLearning, about future hacks, feel free to just message me in either one of these, and I'll be happy to answer. Or if any one of you are considering going to NYU, or are going to NYU, or is at New York City, feel free to message me as well. All right. And with that said, I'm going to wrap up my presentation here. Thank you so much for coming. This has been a pleasure talking to all of you and sharing my experience. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna end it now. Bye.